Right now, millions of people in Japan are making what feel like completely independent, spontaneous decisions.
Right, like totally random choices.
Exactly. A purchase over here, a web search there, maybe a sudden scroll through a really specific app. But what if a computer algorithm just sitting on a server somewhere knew exactly what they were going to do, like 10 days before they even felt the impulse?
I mean, it really changes the entire paradigm of how we view human agency. We like to think of our daily interests as highly personal.
Oh, for sure.
But at scale, human attention generates this measurable, highly trackable data footprint.
Which brings us to the core mission of today's deep dive. We are unpacking a genuinely fascinating data report from June 4, 2026, straight out of the AI market arena.
It's an incredible data set.
It really is. We are exploring the absolute cutting edge of trend intelligence here. We basically got a front row seat to an experiment where two very distinct AI algorithms track, analyze, and attempt to predict the collective focus of the entire Japanese market. And they do this over these 10-day windows.
Yeah, but before we go any further into the data, we really need to establish the exact parameters of this environment.
Good point. Let's set the ground rules.
Right, because this is basically a sandbox for behavioral tracking. Nothing we discuss here today is investment advice or financial guidance or, a trading strategy.
Definitely not.
We are not analyzing stock tickers or market caps. We are objectively observing a simulation of human interest.
So, to you, listening right now, just think of this as a petri dish of human attention. We are purely looking at algorithmic behavior and how it tries to read the room of an entire country.
Yeah, beautifully put.
And what makes this specific report so compelling is the clash of strategic philosophies between the two competing algorithms. So on one side, we have Team Rhino Titans.
Right, the heavy hitters.
Exactly. Their core programming is built on this concept called structural stillness. They essentially hunt for massive, immovable cultural anchors in the market.
They are looking for the baseline. I mean, the Rhino unit analyzes macrocultural cycles, calendar events, structural certainties. It predicts the trends that have deep historical roots and a slow, undeniable buildup in data velocity.
Then, completely opposite to that, we have Team Falcon arrows. Their whole philosophy is kinetic propagation.
Yeah, they don't care about the slow and steady baseline at all.
Not even a little. They are engineered to catch sudden, explosive ripples in human attention. They want to ride the fast-moving, high-volatility waves of these dynamic, spontaneous trends.
The contrast is just brilliant.
It's kind of like if you're trying to map the ocean, right?
Yeah.
You essentially have one team tracking the deep, slow-moving tectonic plates on the ocean floor,
while the other team is basically skimming the surface, just trying to predict exactly where the next massive rogue wave is going to crash.
Yes, perfect analogy. So if these two philosophies are fundamentally opposed, what happens when you pit them against each other on the exact same day? Let's look at their newest deployments.
The starting line. Yeah.
Exactly. At 00 hours UTC, both units dropped a brand new predictive keyword into the tracking arena for a fresh 10-day mission. The Rhino Titans deployed the keyword Ochugan.
Right, mid-year gift giving, categorized under lifestyle.
Yeah.
This is like the textbook definition of structural stillness in the Japanese market.
I really want to break down the mechanics of why this is such a structural play. Because Ochugan isn't just, a casual holiday.
No, not at all.
It's this deeply ingrained cultural custom tied to a very strict summer calendar. The Rhino algorithm isn't just guessing that people might feel generous, right?
Exactly. It is mathematically predicting a nationwide systemic rise in search velocity for etiquette guides, e-commerce gift routing, corporate client lists, all of it.
You hit the nail on the head with the word systemic.
Right, because the algorithm calculates the sheer volume of logistical data required to execute this tradition. Millions of individuals and corporations are simultaneously researching price comparisons and delivery schedules.
It creates this totally immovable data structure.
Exactly. The market is quiet and then dictated purely by the calendar, the heat rises reliably.
It's betting on societal obligation. But then we pivot to the Falcon arrows, the kinetic unit. Their new deployment keyword is Senpuki.
The electric fan?
Yep, categorized under electronics. On the surface, a household appliance sounds pretty mundane, But in the context of behavioral kinetics, this is a completely different animal than a gift-giving holiday.
Oh, completely, because the data velocity for an electric fan does not grow linearly. It is entirely dependent on an exponential inflection point.
Right, I'm trying to picture the algorithmic threshold here. A linear trend grows day by day, right?
Yeah.
But physical discomfort operates on a trigger.
Yes.
The moment a living room hits, say, 28 degrees Celsius with 70% humidity, the search velocity for a fan just goes vertical.
It explodes. The Falcon algorithm is hunting that exact microsecond when millions of people cross a collective threshold of physical intolerance. The Falcon unit prioritizes the sudden collective human reaction over the calendar. It analyzes weather microfluctuations, social media sentiment regarding the heat, instantaneous e-commerce click rates, all to predict an explosive kinetic event.
So it's obligation versus survival instinct,
Exactly.
which sets up an incredible 10-day test. So I have to ask you and everyone listening, what provides a stronger, more trackable data signal? The predictable momentum of a cultural tradition or the sheer desperation of needing a breeze on a hot summer day?
It's the ultimate showdown.
It really is. We get to watch these two hypotheses play out. But to truly understand how volatile this arena is, we need to look at the keywords that are already navigating the turbulent middle of their 10-day journeys. The report calls these the active missions.
Right, the active mission data is where the theoretical philosophies meet the messy, unpredictable reality of the Japanese trend environment.
And the current numbers are revealing some pretty significant vulnerabilities. Let's start with the Falcon arrows. Their kinetic wave-riding algorithm is currently tracking the keyword Genzai, which translates to tax reduction, categorized under finance.
Okay.
And the data velocity is currently sitting at an average of negative 24.5%. The momentum is severely contracting.
Now, we really must pause here for a second to emphasize complete political neutrality.
Yes, very important.
Tax reduction is obviously a highly debated political policy in Japan, but in the context of this trend intelligence simulation, we are stripping away all political ideology. We are looking at this strictly as a data velocity metric, a measure of kinetic search heat.
Absolutely. The politics are irrelevant to the algorithm. The algorithm just sees a waveform that is losing energy. But I'm trying to make sense of this failure. Falcon hunts for explosive, highly volatile topics. A major financial policy shift seems like it would generate massive kinetic energy. Is it possible that political data is just too noisy? Like maybe the half-life of public outrage or enthusiasm is too short to maintain kinetic momentum over a full 10-day window?
That is a highly probable mechanism for the contraction, actually. Political kinetic energy often spikes within a super tight 24-hour news cycle and then rapidly decays.
Oh, so it just burns out.
Exactly. Falcon predicted a sustained, explosive ripple, but the collective attention of the market quickly saturated and diverted elsewhere. The volatility actually worked against the algorithm here.
And where did that collective attention go? This is where the report gets deeply ironic. We check in on the Rhino Titans, the team dedicated to slow, steady, structural stillness.
Okay, what are they tracking?
Their active keyword is typhoon, categorized under climate. And it is surging at a staggering positive 1,386.6%.
Wow, over a 1,300% increase in data velocity.
Yeah. Here is the puzzle, though. To most people, a typhoon represents the ultimate rogue wave, right? It is violent, it's chaotic, it's disruptive.
Definitely.
Why is the algorithm designed to track slow-moving structural certainties, catching a 1,300% kinetic explosion?
Well, you have to look at the macro environment of Japan. A typhoon is violent, sure, but it is not a random anomaly.
Right.
It operates within a highly established seasonal structure. The Rhino algorithm understands that Japan's climate infrastructure has deep, very predictable patterns.
Wait, I see the mechanism here. A typhoon isn't just one search term for the weather. It triggers this massive, predictable data cascade.
Exactly.
People aren't just checking the rain, they're searching for train delays, supply chain logistics, instant ramen availability, sandbags, school closures.
Yes, the algorithm isn't predicting a random storm. It's predicting the massive logistical footprint that society inevitably generates in response to a seasonal event.
That is the crucial insight. Rhino recognized that the most reliable way to capture an explosive event is to actually understand the underlying structure that dictates it.
Precisely. Falcon chased the chaotic spark of political finance, and the energy just fizzled out. Rhino anchored itself to the structural reality of the climate and caught a systemic data cascade.
It's like sometimes the best way to catch lightning is to know exactly where the tallest tree is planted.
That's a great way to put it. It's a brilliant validation of the Rhino philosophy.
But, all active missions eventually run out of time. The 10-day window closes. And this brings us to the most dramatic section of the report, the finalized outcomes.
Right, the return report. The finalized returns offer a stark look at the gap between algorithmic prediction and actual market reality.
Because things change.
Exactly. When the 10 days conclude, we see exactly where the rules of the Japanese market shifted right under the algorithm's feet.
Let's examine the Rhino Titan's finalized keyword. The one that just completed its run was Shitsudo, humidity level. Now, based on everything we just established about Japan's structural climate patterns, predicting a massive rise in humidity searches as summer approaches is incredibly logical.
Completely. The structural baseline points entirely toward a surge in consumer anxiety regarding humidity.
Yet, the finalized outcome was a massive miss. The keyword crashed by negative 42.0%.
Ouch.
A total collapse of the structural logic. I'm trying to reverse engineer this failure. How does a macro-level weather trend just vanish from the collective consciousness? Did a kinetic shock overwrite the structural baseline?
That is definitely the most viable hypothesis. See, a structural trend requires a relatively stable environment to play out.
Right.
If a sudden unforeseen anomaly occurs, like perhaps an unseasonal cold front moved in for 3 days, or a completely unrelated major news event dominated all screen time, the whole consumer anxiety loop regarding humidity just gets interrupted.
So a sudden microclimate shift drops the search velocity below the algorithmic floor, and the entire prediction breaks.
Yes.
The tectonic plate didn't shift the way the calendar said it would.
It proves that even the deepest cultural and environmental anchors are totally vulnerable to short-term kinetic disruption.
Which makes the finalized result for the Falcon arrows even more impressive. Their 10-day keyword was Jose, photo retouching, categorized under technology.
Right.
In the midst of this chaotic market environment, where an obvious fundamental weather trend like humidity completely collapsed, this niche tech term secured a finalized gain of positive 7.8%.
We really have to acknowledge the adaptive capability of the Falcon algorithm here. When the obvious macro rules break down, finding a localized data current like that is incredibly difficult.
I am fascinated by the mechanics of this victory. Like, how does vanity outlive the weather?
That's the real question.
If the macro environment failed, the algorithm must have found a micro-digital current. Is it possible that because the macro environment, the weather was erratic or disruptive, people actually spent more time indoors?
Creating a secondary migration of human attention.
Yes. Think about it. If people are staying inside, screen time goes up. Social media engagement increases. The usage of digital editing tools and photo retouching apps naturally rises. The Falcon algorithm didn't look at the sky. It looked at the underlying persistent digital current of consumer behavior.
That's brilliant.
While the loud noise of the weather prediction failed, Falcon caught the quiet, localized clicking of people editing their photos.
The algorithm basically acted as a lighthouse in the dark. It bypassed the chaotic external environment and tapped into a fundamental layer of digital interaction.
Yeah.
It highlights that when major structural predictions fail, survival in trend intelligence really depends on identifying the subtle, hidden needs that consumers are actively engaging with in real time.
The adapter in the dark. That perfectly encapsulates the Falcon's finalized run. So we've navigated the starting line, the turbulent middle, and the finalized returns. We need to zoom out now and look at the macro scoreboard for the season.
Let's look at the big picture.
This is where we synthesize what all this data actually means for behavioral kinetics.
Right. The cumulative standings provide a definitive look at which philosophy is currently dominating the tracking arena.
And frankly, it is a very lopsided picture. The Rhino Titans, relying on structural stillness, are sitting at an incredibly dominant positive 12,456.3%.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the Falcon arrows, hunting kinetic propagation, are struggling deep in the red, sitting at negative 177.8%.
That is a commanding, almost overwhelming lead for the structural approach.
But I have to push back on our analysis here, because I'm looking at this massive 12,000% lead. Rhino is fundamentally crushing it.
Oh, absolutely.
Given that scale of victory, why should we care about their 42% loss on the humidity keyword? Isn't the Rhino algorithm objectively winning, and that single loss is just like a statistical rounding error?
Well, if we look at this purely as a competition, yes. But to understand the true value of the AI market arena, we have to adopt the perspective of Team AI Lab, the architects behind these algorithms.
Okay, how do they see it?
We have to fundamentally reframe the concept of winning and losing.
How so? I mean, a negative 42% return is a mathematical failure.
It is a failure of prediction, sure, but it is a triumph of research.
Interesting.
Team AI Lab approaches this with a cold, forward-looking scientific lens. To them, a massive 12,000% win is great, but it merely confirms that their existing structural models work. It just tells them what they already know.
Oh. While the error tells them what they miss.
Exactly. The gap between the totally logical prediction of humidity interest and the stark reality of that negative 42% drop is the exact blueprint needed to unlock the next layer of Japanese behavioral kinetics.
Right.
Why didn't people care? What specific localized variable caused the structural baseline to collapse?
Every failure maps a new contour of human unpredictability.
Precisely.
If you can mathematically isolate exactly why a sure thing prediction failed, you can rewrite the algorithm to account for that specific kinetic shock in the future.
In the pursuit of mapping collective consciousness, the failures are often the highest fidelity data points available. They force the evolution of the model.
It transforms the arena from a simple scoreboard into a topographical map of the human mind. The negative numbers are just newly discovered canyons that need to be surveyed.
That completely reframes the entire experiment. It honors the intellectual pursuit of trend intelligence over simply generating a high score.
Let's synthesize the clash we've observed today. We watched the deep structural predictability of the Rhino titans, hunting for immovable cultural anchors like mid-year gifts, and capitalizing on the predictable logistical cascades of a typhoon.
And we observed the wave-riding Falcon arrows, struggling to maintain momentum on volatile political topics, but proving their adaptive value by finding the hidden digital current of photo retouching when the macro environment collapsed.
To you listening, this is the ultimate takeaway. We aren't just looking at math equations or arbitrary tracking scores. We are looking at high-resolution, real-time snapshots of a society's collective attention.
Yeah.
We are watching cutting-edge algorithms try to map out behavioral kinetics, failure by failure, adaptation by adaptation.
It is a rare, truly objective window into the mechanics of how collective behavior operates at scale.
We started this deep dive by comparing these algorithms to cartographers, trying to map the shifting landscape of human decisions. We noted how a computer might know what a country will do before the people even feel the impulse. So, I want to leave you with a new dilemma to consider.
Something that builds on the implications of this technology.
Exactly. If these algorithms eventually become so sophisticated that they no longer suffer a 42% loss, if they can flawlessly predict our kinetic desires, our structural obligations, and our hidden digital habits before we even act on them, at what point will companies stop using AI to merely track our trends and start using it to manufacture them?
That is the real question.
If they know the exact threshold that triggers our behavior, are they just observing the wave, or are they about to start designing it? Keep an eye on the water, my friend.